So I'm a community engineer for Elastic, which means that it's my job to come up with talks and use cases, also learn from use cases that the community has. Like Elastic Stack is a huge toolkit by now, and it's been battle tested and is in use by um, it's hard to estimate, certainly hundreds of thousands of users, and it could be, it's very likely is millions. So what I try to do is try to look for interesting use cases and also for simple ways in which to show what you can do. So with that said, let's dive right in. There's not a lot of slides today. That's mostly demos. So the first major release, the first major thing released is the Elastic Agent. So you know how, oh, you might not know, in case you don't, so far, in order to bring metrics and logs into the Elastic Stack, you would use a number of lightweight shipping daemon programs called beats. You have Filebeat for files, for log files, Metricbeat for stats like CPU, disk, RAM used, that kind of thing. You have PacketBeat for network statistics. You have WinLogBeat for Windows logs. You have Heartbeat for uptime and several others, official ones, as well as a number of community contributed ones. So the thing with all that is that that's wonderful. It allows you to bring all your data in. And they've become a lot more standardized over time into how they're configured and how they're used. But you still have to go and set them up. You write a bunch of YAML, or you most likely deploy it from an orchestration script of some kind, the Ansible Chef, whatever floats your boat, and then off you go. So what we've got here is, instead of having to set up many different projects, we want to move towards setting up just one agent. You can guess like what the name is, Elastic Agent, and that actually installs Filebeat, Metricbeat, and so on for you. Now, right now, this is an experimental feature, so first off, don't deploy this in production, and I'll remind you later as well. But also right now it only supports Filebeat, Metricbeat, and endpoint security, which we'll talk about in a second. So, having said that, let's move on to, well, looking at it. So, the way you can, by the way, download everything that I'm going to show you to your computers, servers, computers, etc., and use it there for free. Nothing that I'm going to show you you need to pay for. However, if you want, you can leave the maintenance to us. For example, setting up the Elastic Stack, setting up Elasticsearch, in particular, setting up Kibana, which is what you would need to do in this case, setting up distributed nature of it, running up multiple nodes and so on. So what you can do is you log into Elastic Cloud, select your favorite cloud provider, and somewhere, a region close to you, might be London, and you simply hit create deployment, or of course walk through fault tolerance, exactly what features you want to enable, and so on and so forth. So because I don't want us to wait for a cloud to spin itself up, we are going to just look at one that I already have, the Elastic Agent deployment. Now, I have done nothing else except create it. It is empty, completely empty. And in case you don't know, if you haven't used Kibana before, this is how you see that. You go to Kibana Discover. Since there are no index patterns, there is literally no data, and Kibana has no idea how to display anything. And that's excellent, because that's where you are going to start as well. So what you want to do, I clicked that a bit too quickly. What you want to do is zoom in your screen so everybody can see it. Is under management, you want to click on ingest manager. right here. That's the new hotness, the Elastic agent. Now, ingest manager is like the how you manage a number of agents. Now, this is probably a good place to segue into that. Elastic agent, that's the piece of software that's gonna install and run Filebeat and Metricbeat and start collecting everything automatically from your server for you. That's the piece of software that runs on your server, like Filebeat and so on had to do until now. But beyond that, you can have, as you see right here, you can have a fleet of agents that are managed from Kibana. So unlike so far with Filebeat, Metricbeat, and so on, where you had to write a YAML config and it had to be on the machine, the Elastic agent has the ability to retrieve its configuration either locally, like it used to be so far, or from Kibana. So you can actually update the configuration for 10,000 servers, and that'll get pushed out to all of them. And we'll obviously see an example of that today. And the overall management for all of that is called ingest manager. Ingest because you're ingesting logs, metrics, and other relevant information. So this is what it looks like by default. We don't have anything yet. So standalone mode is where you don't manage it from Kibana. I'm not going to show that today. I'm going to show how to manage it. Yes, so first thing you need to do is click a button. That will basically creates a user specifically for a Kibana user specifically for the Elastic agent, so that like it doesn't use the default admin one that you log in with. Okay, so download the agent. I have already downloaded it onto a web server. And here we are. This is all that I've done. Downloaded the Debian package because this is an Ubuntu machine. It's probably pretty ancient actually. And then I have installed it. But that's it. I haven't done anything else yet. All right, so that's agent configuration. For now, we'll just go with the system. So we're collecting system metrics like CPU. So we want Linux.
Hey, Emanuil, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Someone's asked you if you can speak a little louder, please.
Oh, of course. My apologies. Let me check my microphone settings as well. Yes, of course. Yeah, no, a very common problem while thinking. Okay, so we have installed the agent up here. We have downloaded it, and we have installed it on this Ubuntu machine, and we are now going to enroll it. Okay, we're going to enroll it in a typical way by adding sudo in front of the command. So you still need, I mean, just like with Metricbeat and Filebeat, you still need the same permissions in order to be able to collect those metrics. Yes. Okay. Great. So we have successfully enrolled the agent. Now let's move on to the next bit. These two commands will simply allow it to start, which let me just check. It's a little too old for that. Okay, so there you go. You are going to get a little demonstration of what you need to do on an older machine. We don't include those. Okay. So usually you would just use the commands. Usually you would just use these commands to I mean, this is just putting it into your particular system startup. If you can, in whatever way you do this, these are for systemd, which is the current Debian and Ubuntu. Well, it's almost an everything manager, but including startup process manager. However, because I had to switch the machine that we're going to use for monitoring at the last minute, this one is older. So we're just going to run it ourselves. We need to run it as root. Okay, right. So now we have run the necessary commands. Let's have a look. Okay, so we have, oh gosh, wow, that was so fast that you didn't see the enrolling stage. Oh well. So when the agent started after the enroll command, it downloaded its configuration. So then there is a enroll stage. And then after that, it moves on to the online stage, which means that everything is fine and it should be sending data. All right, so what is it doing? Yes, my personal server is called Pinky. You can all laugh at my choice of server names. So what is it doing? The activity log on the agent will tell you that, and that's quite a useful screen. So as you can see, it will run, and in fact, yes, there you go. So it will start Filebeat, and then it will run Filebeat. So far, so good. Okay, so where's the data? Like, where's our stuff? For that, we want to see data sets up here. Okay, so it will have system data sets, and it will have its own logs. So let's start with its own logs. For to see that, the Observability tab, and specifically logs. And that's opening. We can also open the other dashboards, which there are links. There we go. For these, there are links. So we want the total overview. All right, so logs. Indeed. There we go. It has recorded a bunch of information about the host it's running on, including which cloud provider it's running on, which I did not realize was, well, provided. And that's what Metricbeat does. And there are also, I don't know, there is a multi-level. Right, okay. So you can see, so these are Metricbeat specifically, and if I ask for elastic agent.filebeat, no, there are logs here as well. It's not much to show. But anyway, these are its own logs, and once we configure some more stuff, then you will see that there as well. Oops, sorry. Now, metrics-wise, there are default dashboards that come with Kibana, and when you click through data sets, like over here, when you click through to the dashboards, you can see all of these links. They will link you to the default dashboards. You can also access them from the Kibana menu dashboard. You can see a list of them over there. Yeah, so CPU, memory use, disk use, network I/O, everything seems to be in working order. All right. So next, let's configure nginx monitoring. And now we have it running and we know it works. Great. Let's do something useful with it. Okay, so in order to do that, we will want configuration. Now, you can create different configurations. Say like I have 100 servers that need that kind of config, and I have 1,000 that need that kind of config. You can do all that from here. But the simplest and easiest way is to just edit what's already there. And that's what we're going to do. So there are different integrations. There are quite a few available, as you're going to see in 3, 2, 1. Come on. Yes, there you go. So there's Apache logs, there's some basic AWS host stats, there's Cisco appliances, as well as Citrix. We'll talk about endpoint security in a bit. There's some proxy appliances, Kafka, basic Kubernetes stats, and Postgres, RabbitMQ, and so on. But more interestingly, nginx. Now, there a lot more of those will be coming. And there is a way for the community to also contribute them. So, okay. Right, so we want also metrics. See whether that works or not. But anyway, we definitely want the nginx access logs and error logs. So that's everything we need to do. We just click Save Integration. It warns us it will update one running agent, so the configuration will be pushed without us having to go to the command line, which is fantastic. And we should see that in a second. Now, if we go to datasets, need to give it a bit of time. No, apparently not. View dashboards. We can look at nginx's metrics if they are available, and we can look at the logs. And actually, if you in a second to make sure that there are logs to look at. And that's metrics. I'll just search for nginx in the stream. Okay. Let's just do stream live. Right. And if I say event dataset, all right, let's make sure we can do that. Okay, that's curious. So those are not showing up. However, in the nginx metrics and the logs here, we should be able to see them coming in. Yes, indeed. Yeah, there you go. Here are the hits. Okay. Oh, I just forgotten my what I need to filter in there, and there is a lot of noise from the Elastic agent itself. But yeah, so they are coming in because these are my 200s, and the 5 icon can only be requested by an actual browser. All right, well, that works as well. So that's all great. Now, if I can ask you to all hit this URL, just make it a little bit more interactive. And Q&A, I want to check. There you go. Just open it. I promise it won't do anything. It's just a simple static return, and I'll give you all a minute. Let's see. Are we getting any more access? Okay, yeah, there's a few. Don't be shy. Okay, 50, so you'd be at the bottom. Let's see. Data underscore stream, but data set. Well, there is event data set on nginx access. I was complaining about them. Anyhow. Okay, now there's your IP. I'm assuming that's a US IP. Okay. Oh, the local server status. The reason I'm here is because there should be also stats from nginx coming in, but for some reason, no. Or it's no big deal. I can live without it. To be mindful of the time, you can call it lunch. The way I was able to diagnose this, that yeah, it is in the configuration, so it should be showing up. But the way that I was able to see this is because I can see right here in the logs. Okay. I see right here in the logs that it's returning 404s, despite the obviously valid configuration. Let's give it just a quick attempt. Forgot that. Don't forget your Vim shortcuts, top of file. Right, so defaults and just put that in there. So now localhost, we're just gonna remove the denial, and I don't care if you can see it. Always step status on. And what should do? If you if you can see what's wrong with it, then please let me know. But as I said, to be honest, it's not a big deal. We've already seen the integration and how the nginx logs are being loaded up anyway. So, however, let's try localhost nginx steps. Yeah, there they are. So in here, we have this configured right here. So if we go to Ingest Manager, and if we go to Configurations, and we go into the nginx integration, and we edit the integration, we can see collect metrics from nginx instances on 127.0.0.1 port 80 and advanced options nginx status. So this is exactly what we have here. Localhost port 80 with the default nginx status. So it should work. And let's refresh. And if not, then we can again see it here. Because we'll see Filebeat requesting, sorry, Metricbeat requesting them regularly. And we want the very tail of this on the next page of results, right here, 59, 15. Still a 404. Okay, well, we can access it locally, so it should be working, but let's not waste any more time on that. I'm guessing perhaps it's the name localhost versus an empty host name. That's causing. But anyway, to be honest, they're default metrics. They're not that interesting. So the important part is this is how you get set up. And I didn't have to install Filebeat, didn't have to install Metricbeat, didn't have to change anything. So that's pretty fantastic. So tried out our test URL, I've seen the logs, and the manager. There should be. Okay. Aha, that's what I was looking for. So you can also, you just get this just directly by installing Elastic Agent and by running. You get this map visualization by default to the default Kibana dashboard, which shows you where your visitors are coming from. I didn't have to do any setup, as you saw. I set everything up from scratch, very from scratch. If you zoom in further on, I'm guessing it's only going to be in London from the United Kingdom, so it's not interesting. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Just being able to see that. Right, so this is the idea of this is much easier for production use, but for now it's only Filebeat and Metricbeat, and do not use it in production yet. But I think it's pretty exciting where we're going. I want to know your thoughts though. Would you use something like this? Would it be useful for you? Would it make your life easier? Or like, are you like, oh well, I don't mind Filebeat and Metricbeat. I don't need this. That's really important for us to know. That's why I'm showing you an experimental thing. So, all right. So the next thing that got released. So together with Elastic Agent being released, there is also Elastic Endpoint. So part of Elastic's security solution was made free, and it's a pretty big part. It's our anti-malware. So it's the piece of software that you install and it essentially runs and protects your server. Now, since you already have the agent installed for observability, why not also use it for security? So what we need to do is go to configurations, edit it again. So basically we're adding another integration. And this is, I think, quite a powerful demonstration of what you're able to do. So like Elastic Endpoint Security, the agent of that is also a piece of software, and it has a YAML config and so on. And you could install that yourself, but do it via here. I don't think there's any options. And just click next and click next again. Update one agent, yeah. So what I've just told the Elastic agent deployed on my server to do is run endpoint, download, install, and run endpoint security. And you can see in the fleet of agents, we can get to the agents activity log. And here you go. Now you see what I was fooling around with 10 minutes ago, and now endpoint security is being started. So I'll give it a few seconds, but generally, I'll just get into the tab. And for security, we want to go administration. There are a lot more advanced things. And then we can look into the specific host. You can only collect on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So this doesn't run on mobile, but you can collect data from all of your servers. And it will also, it will really like put files into quarantine and everything you're used to anti-malware doing. You see its configuration. This is all of the data that it collects. And too many things. So, yes, there we go. So for this specific integration, for all hosts within that integration, this is the config. So just to like give you an idea of what you can configure and what it can do. So for Windows and Mac, malware is enabled. I can click through here. Then the fleet module in Kibana will send the update to the Elastic agent running on my server, and it will turn things on and off. So I don't have to go change the config, reload, restart, etc. And like see, it can collect DLL, DNS info, the usual process, network, and security stuff on Windows. And on Linux and Mac, it's, well, much the same actually, just without the Windows specific features, which is mostly what you need in Linux is file process and network info. Then furthermore, you can set it to just detect like when potentially bad piece of software runs, or prevent it from running only on Windows and Mac. But that's quite cool. And you can just do that. So this is free now. This is something you have to pay for. No more. That's quite a major feature for this. You can use, so this you can use yourselves in production if you want to. I just don't recommend doing it by the agent, but you can go and look it up if the feature itself is useful for you. But you will have to deploy the Elastic endpoint piece of software the old-fashioned way, if it's prompt. So I talked about Fleet, right? So a couple of other new features that I just want to show you. So first off is Datastreams. So Datastreams are, this is a search-related feature. This is an entirely new feature that's come to the search part of the stack. I know we talk a lot about observability and more recently about security, but we do keep working on the core Elasticsearch functionality. So with time series, with Datastreams, the idea with it is that we see people using time series data. Obviously, the stack is super famous for being used for the logs. And what happens with them? They tend to grow over time. So when you're storing an entire time series data in a single index, then well, that's simplest, but it will explode eventually just because there's too much data. So then people come up with all sorts of solutions over time. There was a thing called Curator that later became an official Elastic piece of software, still is actually. And then we released Index Lifecycle Management, which became generally available in version 6 of the stack, ILM. And so ILM allows you to set policies, so things like roll over the next to the next index if the data is over 50 gigs in this index or the index is over 30 days old, stuff like that. But they are a bit more complicated to manage, like where you write to, what you query, etc., etc. So a data stream is designed to give you the best of both worlds. So both the simplicity of like a single named thing you can access for writing and reading, and we take care of, we encapsulate the complexity behind it, and you can still dig into that. But you also get storage scalability and potentially the cost saving of having multiple indices. Because the reason that people want multiple indices is because they want to shove all their indices off to colder storage, like to slower machines or to slower storage. Another big difference is that with index lifecycle management, you could do things like, you would usually do things like Filebeat, Filebeat 2020-09-14, 2020-09-15, and so on and so forth. With Datastreams, it's more like nginx and like particular, like your application dash, whatever it is. So you don't have to go just by app, by whatever app is writing, which was the usual pattern before. Datastreams allow that to be a little bit simpler. So, right, let's half a minute nginx to give some time. Let's have a look at creating a data stream. This is how you do it. So last option in Kibana, you run stack management. And then you want this. Yes. So yes, it's within the last option, stack management, then under data, index management. So why is index under index management? Well, because it's actually behind a data stream. It's just indices. So let me show you quickly. This is what a data stream does in the background. You can configure that further, but you don't have to set it up. So if you've done index lifecycle management, then you'll be familiar. You have to do this stuff yourself. So now the data stream will create these backing indices for you, and it gives you a single point which you can talk to. Okay. So let's make that. This the Zoom chat. And streams, and we want to what we need to do in order to create a data stream is open a console. So you interact with data streams in the exact same way as you would interact with an index. So therefore, in order to create an index, you need to do the same thing. So in order to, usually in order to create an index, you would do something like, let me zoom in for you. You would do something like this, right? And then boom, your index is created. Oop, done. I made an index. So you would do, there's something with data streams. I'll just fetch my sample doc. All right, so you can see here that I'm just going to use one of the existing ones. So you can see here that there are a number of data streams. Actually, the Elastic agent uses data streams, and it organizes all the data in streams, and you have, we're gonna use this one, just the nginx access logs. Right, so actually what's behind the nginx access logs, like if we click into it, it will say, oh, it has one index. And this is the backing index. But you don't issue, right? You can't issue writes to this index. So what we need to do if we want to add a document is we need to address the data stream directly. So this is, so for a data stream, you need to have a time field. So you need to have some kind of time series present. You can't just record random data. So in this case, the message is simply the log message. In this case, it's just a lorem ipsum, but we get an exception, and you can't change that. A data stream always has to have a time field. In this case, it should be at timestamp because we're all, that is part of the Elastic Common Schema. So yes, there we go. So now the document has been created successfully because we have added a timestamp. And now if we issue an actual query, like looking through the docs for the specific document, I'm just looking for a particular word. It's very my database, isn't it? All right. Okay. You can issue, the point is you can issue queries directly to the data stream, and you cannot and should not issue queries or writes to the backing indices. So here's again the difference. Backing index, this thing. Data stream, that. And you can manage them, delete them, and so forth here. Right, then on to the next bit. The last feature that I want to talk to you about is wildcards. So wildcard query type and wildcard field type, as we already had wildcard queries for quite a long time, actually. But the wildcard field stores values optimized for grep-like queries. So if you wanted to grep all of your logs, for example, log lines, or anything of that sort, if you have a use case like that, then they're great for that. So the reason why, so we already have text fields, right? So you put in a bunch of text like I just did to that lorem ipsum, and that text is broken down into tokens, and then you can search for them. Ideally with a match query, for some reason, not in my case today, but usually, yes. So that's your very default like full text search. Then you have keyword fields. Keyword fields are untokenized, so they are not analyzed, they're not broken up into pieces. You want to search for a sentence, you need to send the whole sentence, which is usually why you don't store sentences in there, but things like string unique IDs. Like if you got a UUID of 16 characters, you would probably, if you don't want to match parts of it, you want to match the whole thing. So you would use a keyword field. Now, so that's text and keyword. So why wildcard? So wildcard field indexes the whole field value, but slightly differently to tokenization. It uses engrams and stores a full string. The storage for that, so the amount of storage it takes will be lower than keyword fields, but it will be slower to match full text matches. Like basically, if you had a wildcard that just said from beginning to end, this is this exact line. There is no stars in there, no asterisks. I want this specific thing, like this UUID exactly. then a wildcard field will be slower to respond than a keyword field. But why would you do that? Then you want a wildcard field to store wildcard queries and make them faster and cheaper to store. All right, so and that's the last thing we're looking at today. Okay, so we'll create an index. And we'll put a field in there called my wildcard, type wildcard. And then we are going to use the same. We're going to put in a bunch of dots basically. Using Emanuil Ipsum. So let's see that. Actually, if I'm not much mistaken, just copy all of this. Okay, perfect. So we have 3 documents in there. And now we can try searching for something within them. So if we simply try something like that, it doesn't return anything, right? Because there are no wildcards. So there is nothing that exactly matches this. I would need to supply the contents of the entire field. But, so again, nothing. Why? Because just like if you were using grep, it would, well, what you're seeing here is I want this to be a prefix query. So, no, pardon. I want this to be a suffix query. So I want you to find me fields where the value ends in shadow. And if we put that in, then it finds it. It finds a doc. So that's a suffix. Now what about a prefix? We want that. So again, if I just ran it like this, you won't find anything because there is no wildcard. So I would need to supply the entire contents of the field to get matched. Now, however, I get all 3 docs because they all start the same way. And of course, if you wanted to have something in the middle, I think docs is slightly different. I think it was the word discharge from hospital. This is an actual wildcard. They find me everything. Find this. Go find this needle in the haystack very quickly, if you could please. And there you go. It's found out one doc. So that's how wildcards work. Well, this is pretty much concludes it. Sorry for going slightly over time. Did not expect that from nginx. But I hope you found this interesting, and that especially I want to hear your opinions on the last occasion and look at your questions. But wildcards is sort of something that it's not really used that much nowadays. Like in the beginning, it was very requested because people didn't quite grok how normal indexing worked, how tokenization works, and you will generally not need it. But basically, if you want to grep for something, very literally for a pattern like that, maybe you're storing a directory file names, a whole tree structure, then you use a wildcard. And if you have a more complex use case, then I'm sure it's already jumping at you. Now, so let's have a look. Are there any questions? Okay, we fixed the sound. Excellent. That's the last thing we want. Let's do not have good sound. So does anybody have any questions? Just drop them in chat or talk. You can talk, actually. You can just unmute yourselves and go for it. You should all have permissions. Stop sharing this. So make sure you can all talk.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Hannah.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
So I'm not sure my question relates to anything you showed here, specifically for 7.9,
All right, go ahead.
but we have a generic question. So we have a template that creates index mapping, and we have specific index mapping that has a field called hashes, for example, and it's an array of other objects. So it's an array of, it has like, on each entry in the array, it has multiple fields, right? So that's the mapping. And now with 7.9, when we create an index based on that template, for some reason, the mapping of that specific field is not coming through in the new index. And my question is that some breaking change that was done at 7, 8, 9 or something like that? So it was working for us until
Let me just
7.3.
just repeat it to you so that I'm to make sure I got it. So you have a template, a dynamic template
Yep.
of some kind, right? And so
If I
like
have flat
before,
fields, they come through. Like flat fields, I have a keyword, 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 multiple fields, keyword, keyword, keyword. That's okay. It's coming through in the index. But then
yeah.
I have one field that is an array that in each entry in the array has a few keywords, 1, 2, 3, or maybe a long.
Yeah, and that's not. I think you should obviously you're sure the field name is still matching the pattern that you set in the dynamic template.
Yes, it's matching the pattern, but it's not. It's not. The index is created without that one field. That is the
So
one.
as soon as the data hits it, it creates a default text field, for example.
Yeah.
Like
It will
rather
do
than
whatever it will do with it. It will figure it out by itself. Like it will make it a text, I guess. Yes. But we need it to be like an array.
So I haven't
I
heard
was just
of that,
wondering if
but
there's anything
uh,
that was. I know that they did something with the template. They enhanced. They had some more template option, like another version of the template or something like that, or another
yeah, but
abstraction on top of the
this is
template.
like a very basic. I was just answering a question by a forum user. Although now that you mention, I don't remember they were 7.7 or 7.9. So what you're on 7.9 now, right? You're
We
talking about the
switched from
latest.
7.3 to 7.9, so we made the
Yeah.
switch. So it could be introduced in 7.8 or 7.7, but we're seeing it now in 7.9.
Yeah, but we haven't changed how templates work. Like we have transforms, so yeah, we've added features. Although actually, I think the last we added features for templates was quite a while back. I don't think we've done anything to templates.
So there's nothing that was done that explains that behavior, I think is what I'm hearing from you.
No. Can you open a question on the Discuss forum and also drop me a note in my email just so I can go and basically I can go investigate it and answer it in a way that then everybody else can make use of.
Sure.
So,
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just checking though. Just check through the release highlights very quickly, but I'm pretty sure that 7.6. So wait, you're on 7.3, right?
Yeah, we're upgrading from 7.3 to 7.9. So specifically, we have a custom plugin that we implemented.
Yeah, this is getting pretty old now. Result spinning, shape fields, okay, key management.
That needs that specific field in an array form.
Yeah, so the last thing we did was in 7.3. Maybe that's what you're remembering, but that's just a memory leak fix. It shouldn't change how it works. Yeah, so no, it should be working for you. So if it's not, there's something wrong.
So I had an item in discuss, and Emanuil.
And I popped my email in the chat. Yeah.
Is it there?
Yeah, and Zoom chat. Can you see?
Yeah, I see the chat. I have to do
7. Well, for you,
I'll look for each chat.
127, I guess, or 227.
I'll find you.
If you wait a second, there you go. So take a screenshot of that. Oh, I didn't share. I mean, you can see my screen. Share this to. There you go. I've noticed there weren't any other questions, so if there are some, please. Well, now's your chance. Write them down. Or yeah, I saw there was actually one on the Q&A feature. So let's have a look at that. Okay, Rabi is asking, why is it not recommended to deploy the Elastic Agent over more than 100 machines? When will it be in general availability? Like, yeah, the no more than 100 nodes is just, currently it's performance considerations. We've just noticed that in certain situations, depending on like what you're running and what it's, what Filebeat and Metricbeat is sending, it can be a bit much. So that's something that'll get ironed out as it gets out of beta status. We don't commit publicly to when things will be in general availability, but we're working pretty hard on it. Like, this is our major initiative in observability. Well, we work on a whole bunch of features, but this is quite exciting for us. Like, we have a lot of people working on this. At the end of the day, this will make installing all of the beats, basically all at once, trivial. And as you saw, not like having to go and do YAML configs for each one separately, but just being able to do that from Kibana. And you could actually put the YAML config in Kibana, like if you wanted to. So yeah, it's a pretty big initiative for us, and we'll keep releasing stuff related to that. But I can't tell you to BGA. So no more questions, and I've held you long enough. So go and enjoy your days. Thank you very much for coming.